Hey everybody, it's Party Elite continuing that early look at the Norsca DLC that is dropping later on this week. This is part 2 of a multi-part series. If you haven't seen the first part, there will be a link to it under the eye at the top right corner of the screen and in the description down below as well. That first part covers campaign mechanics, skill trees, building browsers, things like that. This video is going to take a look at all of the units that come with Norsca. We're going to start with the lords, look at their items, we're going to look at the heroes and what they bring to the field, and then we're going to move down to all of the infantry and cavalry, well, all the units. All the units, we'll take a look at them properly on the battlefield, see their stats, and maybe make some guesses at how they will and won't work. And then I think the next video I'll be producing will actually put those units to the test. We'll do a couple of battlefield tests, see how they stack up against usual units that they might go up against. I'm not going to waste too much more time with the introduction. I do want to say, though, a big and quick thank you to Creative Assembly and the Total War team for giving me early access so that I might play around with it and show you guys what's coming in less than a week's time right now. So, first things first, I am curious, between Norsca and Wintertooth, what is the difference in roster? It looks like... Sorry, I'm just trying to keep a quick mental count here. It looks like the only difference is in lords. If you're with Norsca, you get Wulfrik as well, whereas if you're Wintertooth, you only get Throgg and the Marauder Chieftan. Otherwise, the rosters do look similar. Okay, cool. That's fair enough, in which case we'll take a look at Norsca as opposed to Wintertooth, obviously, because that just makes sense. And yeah, let's dive right into it. And I do want to say really quickly, I'm covering all of the units, as I mentioned, including the Regiments of Renown we're getting for free as well through Total War Access. If you would like to skip any unit or skip right to a unit, in the description below there are timestamps. I understand not everybody wants to see everything again. Some of these things we have talked about before, but I like keeping everything in one place. So timestamps down below help you skip through and to whichever unit you want to look at. Now, let's start off with the Marauder Chieftan. So the Marauder Chieftan is 1038 points, and just so you know, I have set the unit size to large so that we can actually look at hit points and unit sizes properly as well. So, Marauder Chieftan, shielded melee expert, 50 armor, bronze shield, also has 15% missile resistance, so that's not bad. Leadership of 70, solid. Speed 35, probably the same speed as most of your infantry, that's fine. Melee attack 60, melee defense 40, decent stats, weapon strength 435. That's 160 armor piercing, so that's not terrible. And then a charge bonus of 55. We've got Encourage, of course, Hide Through Force, Rage. Okay, this is actually the first time we're seeing Rage. We've seen Berserk, which is Rage, except at a higher degree. So this, in 45-second intervals, we go from +8 leadership to +8 leadership and 12% physical resistance to +8 leadership, 12% physical resistance, and +8 melee attack. And I believe Berserk, which we'll see in a bit, but Berserk is 16 leadership and 16 melee attack? Or you know what, let's look at it right now. Why wait? Marauder Berserkers. Yeah, and 22% physical resistance. That's a pretty big difference, but not looking at you guys yet. Marauder Chieftain. So, let's see, that's Rage, Foe Seeker, we know, and then Stand or Die, of course. Now what happens when we hop onto a Norscan Warhorse, words. Norscan Warhorse gives us a little bit more health, plus 45 speed, and plus 10 charge bonus, and no changes to abilities. The Marauder Chariot removes the ability to hide in forests, that's fine, and also gives us plus 700 health, plus 50 armor, pretty big, plus 45 speed, of course, makes us anti-infantry. Yep, and then increases charge bonus quite heftily as well, but it does sacrifice melee attack and melee defense, not surprising. And then finally, the War Mammoth for 1,200 extra points. It's quite a bit. That gives us 7,211 more hit points. 70 leadership still, plus 21 to speed, so a little middling. Mammoths aren't the fastest. It's because they're big boned. Melee attack actually goes down, which makes sense because I figure the mammoths have sort of sweeping strike, so you have to balance that out. So 41 melee attack. Melee defense is a bit lower as well at 35. Anti-infantry, armor piercing, and 525 points of damage. So that's solid. We'll take a look at how much that armor piercing actually is. 400 points of armor piercing damage. Right, and then a 5 bonus versus infantry, whereas the Chariot just has a 30 bonus versus infantry, but 160 armor piercing, so not bad. But back to that comparison, charge bonus also goes up quite heftily, and we also add Siege Attacker, or is that, yeah, Siege Attacker, and then Fear and Terror as well. So, but that's very expensive. That Marauder Chieftain on the War Mammoth is more expensive than Wulfrik and Throgg, so it'll be interesting to see how that compares, but I'm guessing Wulfrik on a War Mammoth is going to be insane. Abilities, we've got Foe Seeker and Stand or Die. I'm going to assume that doesn't change without a mount. Come on. Yeah. So that's pretty standard melee lord we've got. Next up, we do have Wulfrik the Wanderer. And Wulfrik here... Okay, let's see. So, Armored and Shielded Melee Expert Duelist, 100 armor, silver shields. That's a 55% block resistance, or block chance. That's pretty good. 75 leadership, 35 speed. Again, standard, I guess. Melee attack 70, melee defense 50. Solid. Weapon strength 490. How much of that is armor piercing? 123. Alright. I don't know, it's funny. It's like he's talked about this marvelous, this marvelous kind of duelist and whatnot. Expect him to have like infinity melee attack. Weapon strength, charge bonus 50, so not terrible. Upon his Norscan Warhorse, plus 231 to health, plus 45 to speed, plus 15 to charge bonus, and the abilities stay the same. Okay, so between those two, he is able to have a 15% missile resistance. He's got the Siege Attacker attribute, Encourage, Hide in Forests. We've got Rage going, Foe Seeker, Standard Die. This is Hunter of Champions, which we've seen through Creative Assembly's streams and whatnot. So it's a hex for 24 seconds on any enemy, lord, or hero within 100 meters. So negative 16 melee defense, negative 48% speed, and negative 30 armor. That's absolutely huge, and it's a 90-second cooldown. So you really want to make sure you're close, because you've only got 24 seconds to get that damage in. And then we've got Seafang as well, which, you know what, I might actually hop into the battlefield to check what Seafang looks like, because I've been very curious ever since they decided not to show it to us on stream. So we'll look at that, but it's a wind spell lasting 8 seconds, 150 meter range, strong versus 120 men unit or above. That's interesting. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that marked down. I don't know if that's something new they're adding, or if Seafang gets stronger when it's against a clump of more than 120 people. Either way, it also causes frostbite. Okay, so actually that'd be really good to slow down a charging line, though you'd want them to be still as well, because you'd like to cause as much damage as possible. So we'll take a look at that shortly, actually. But those are the stats, and so between the horse and no mount, it's the same. The Marauder Chariot, plus 700 health, plus 20 to armor, man. Plus 45 speed, reduction in melee attack, melee defense, and weapon strength, but an increase in charge bonus, and then the War Mammoth, which I do want to look at. Maybe we'll take him to the field when we're looking at all of the units. But that is, actually, let's compare it first. That is plus 6,990 health, negative 30 to armor, and we lose the blocking ability as well, which we had right up until the Marauder Chariot. On the horse, he actually drops to bronze shields, and War Mammoth drops it completely. Leadership boost, of course, you're on a Mammoth. Speed is plus 21, melee attack, melee defense go down. Weapon strength plus 35, charge bonus greatly increased as well, and I believe it just... So it gets rid of the missile resistance, but it adds fear and terror, and that armor piercing stat is 400, so it's pretty massive. Maybe we jump into the battlefield really quickly just to see what Seafang looks like, and let's do it on... What's faster? Alright, let's do it on the Marauder Chariot, and then we can look at the War Mammoth later. So, Empire? Sure. I don't really want to fight. One of the mods that I like to use that lets me make any unit into a lord is incompatible with this in its current state, unfortunately, but I do have another mod which I will give credit to. That one flagellant really changes things, but it gives me better maps to test individual units on, but we'll see that next episode. For now, let's get Wulfrik in there on his chariot, and you know what, we actually need a line of something to hold a line, and then pop the ability. Alright, let's just take this to the battlefield real quick and see what Seafang looks like. Is that everything I need? I think so. Alright, Wulfrik the Wanderer. Oh no, I think I'm outnumbered. I hope, the most annoying thing about these sorts of, videos is when the AI does not cooperate. It's just like when I guaranteed when I'm trying to test like anti-large versus large, the AI is just gonna kind of circumvent me and rear charge, negating the charge defense. Anyways, let's actually, without looking at it too much, I do want to look at this Chariot. This is not the best map to get a look at units. Oh man. Alright, so it looks... I'm trying to remember what the Chaos Chariot looks like. But it looks like a standard Chaos Chariot. Alright. Pop back out of that, and let's get this party started. Rush on down. I'm not going to spend too long in this. I just want to see what Seafang looks like. Seafang takes... I guess it starts with that 57-second cooldown. So it'll take a little bit before I can use it. Get you over there. And let's just follow some of these Marauders. Man. I will never get over how beautiful Total War games look. So cool. Alright. Let's get out of this. Let's speed it up. No time to waste. I want to try and maintain the hour length for these videos. This one will probably be an hour and a half, though. Just because there's so many units to look at. Alright. What are you doing? Come on. Get a pile going. Okay. No, I want a straight line. That's really frustrating. Okay. You know what? Okay, that's something of a clump. Yeah, that's good enough to test this out. We might lose a couple of our own, but so what? Alright, so Seafang is a wind spell, just like any other. Let's halt. And let's pop it. That should be good. Alright, so let's get a nice shot here. I'm not going to get that depth of field effect going on because I don't want to miss anything. When I'm doing shots, I usually have to adjust the focal lengths and stuff. And everything will be blurry. So maybe we just do this instead. Alright. I don't know how far this thing will travel. I don't know what it'll do. But I want to make sure we're in slow motion. And I want to see every bit of it. Alright, so Seafang should be popping up somewhere over here. They made it sound like a ghost ship. So let's see what happens here. Alright, Pit of Shades. Come on. Oh, oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, I want to get a good look at this thing. This map is very red. Oh man. Okay, so this is not... I was expecting something that looks ethereal, like it were... what are they called? Cairn Wraiths or something, but this is awesome. Got a little captain there. Okay. That is cool. Oh, and it's got these little, like... chains. And that caused a lot of damage, actually. These guys... took a lot of hurt, a lot of dead flagellants there. And I'm assuming that it just kind of goes through that Pit of Shades and off into oblivion. Okay, that's really satisfying. And that's a long range as well, actually. I just realized how far that went. So that went from about here to... You could get, like... You could get an entire front line. That's a wind of death right there. I can't wait to look at the stats for that. But, yeah, that must have caused a lot of damage. How much? Actually, we can find out. 76 kills. Goddamn. Alright, sweet. Okay, I'll definitely be taking that to the field more. And we're going to use a different map when we're looking at units, because I'm not a fan of the very red effect, and I don't want to go in and change settings while we're in the middle of recording this. But yeah, that's insane. Okay, so Seafang is awesome, duly noted. Let's get a nicer. This is pretty flat, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's flat enough, and I don't think it's red. Okay, so that was sweet. I'm very curious to see how it compares to Wind of Death in terms of the damage dealt, armor piercing versus non-armor piercing, because that was Flagellants. They have 0 armor, so very curious. Anyways, moving on from that, abilities. We've got Foe Seeker, standard die. Hunter of Champions costs 143 to take to the field, and Seafang costs 142 to take to the field. And then in terms of items, we do have the Sword of Torgald, plus 22% weapon damage for 237 points, which is not bad. 120-second duration. That's not bad. In a critical situation or when you're up against the enemy lord, you pop this, you pop, whatchamacallit, Hunter of Champions, and go to town. So, that's pretty solid. Moving on to Throgg, who we will also take to the field, because I want to see his Copious Vomit in action. Herge is roughly, I guess, how you would read that at the bottom there. Alright, before we look into that, so no mounts for Throgg, of course. He's a troll, though I can't wait to see the first mod that puts him on a Mammoth. Armor piercing, melee, expert, frostbite, regeneration. So 55 armor, so on the lower end of things. Higher than the Marauder Chieftan, lower than Wulfrik, makes sense. No blocking either, though he does have missile resistance of 15%, leadership of 70, speed of 56. Frostbite with his melee attack of 60. Now, Frostbite gives a negative 52% speed for 6 seconds. Melee defense of 50. Weapon strength is anti-large armor piercing. Armor piercing is 372. That's pretty big. That's just short of Wulfrik on his War Mammoth, I think, which was 400. And his bonus versus large as well is 28, so that's huge. And then the charge bonus is 50. Now, actually, that reminds me really quick. Sorry, guys. I just want to check. Okay, so Wulfrik's War Mammoth is not tossing Javelins anti-large like the other War Mammoths are. So that's an interesting difference to note. Anyways, so yeah, Throgg, we've got Missile Resistance, Siege Attacker, Causes Fear, Encourage, Hide in Forests, which is kind of funny, Regeneration, which, right, is a plus 20% weakness to fire damage, so that will come into play. We've got, obviously, Foe Seeker, and this is Copious Vomit, which does, let's see, magical and fire damage, powerful explosion, it claims, strong versus a single combatant, weak versus multiple combatants. Alright, we'll check that out. And then we've got Fight or Die, which we're used to, but that icon looks different. Yeah, it used to be Standard Die, and now it's Fight or Die. Okay, so Fight or Die is plus 16 leadership and plus 27 melee attack, 40 meter range, 15 seconds, whereas Stand or Die is plus 36 melee defense. Interesting, so Throgg is a bit more on the offensive side, which makes sense. He's a troll. Trolls tend to be offensive. Items, we do have the Winter Tooth Crown. 38-second duration, any ally within 30 meters to make them unbreakable. We've seen this in the previous video as well for the campaign. Pretty helpful against, or like to use on trolls, so not bad at all. Let's take Throgg to the field, and let's beat on a General of the Empire. Or actually, you know what? Where is... Let's beat on Archaon. So, Copious Vomit, magical and fire damage, powerful explosion, strong versus a single combatant. So let's see how that looks on the field. Archaon will actually kick Throgg quite hard, but that doesn't matter. I just want to puke on him. In retrospect, that wasn't the nicest thing to say. I now have a very vivid image in my mind. But anyways, let's see what that Copious Vomit looks like, and then we can start, I think, diving into some of the units. So, whoa. Off to an early start. Should have got rid of his magic. Now, let's see. It does have a 45-second cooldown to start with, and you know what? While we're marching closer, I do want to look at our buddy Throgg. Man, if you could just stop casting magic on me, that'd be pretty sweet. Alright, you know what? Let's slow this down. There we go. Keep moving, Throgg. Get away from the fire. Oh, that does look pretty cool. Cool, guys, don't look at explosions. Man, Throgg looks great. Look at that giant hammer. And a little crown as well. Oh, too close. Looks absolutely fantastic. When they showed him on that stream or whatever it was, I thought, man, I would love to get a model like this of him like in the middle of a charge or a dive or something. Look at the little swords and stuff on the back. That's so funny. Oh god. Yeah, I might have to do a Throgg all monster run for my first campaign. Maybe get a couple of those battles in as well during this week. Alright. But enough ogling. It is rude. Oh, wow, it's a pretty short range actually. When you look at it on the field, you can really see how much shorter it is. Alright. So let's just get into position. And want to make sure I catch this. Let's see, 3720. Alright. Alright. Show me what you got. This is going to be gross. I'm not going to go into the fancy... Actually, you know what? Yeah, no. Oh! Oh, that's disgusting. Wait. This thing's traveling away from me. Oh my god, that's disgusting. Okay. Come on. This is gross. Oh man, that makes me feel very uncomfortable. Oh my god, that's disgusting. That is nasty. Throgg, you nasty. 3413. So that was actually, that's not bad. That is a decent amount of hurt. From 3720, so dropped by about 307. Quick math there. Yeah, I think that dropped by about 307. And you know what? Just want to get one good hit. One good hit. Oh my god, stop with your fireballs. The fireballs are actually doing a lot of work. Oh, I was hoping I tossed them back. Anyways, back to the menu. Yeah, end battle. Alright, okay, so Copious Vomit's pretty good. You get 3 uses of it. And, yeah. Puke on some fools, I guess. I don't know. Alright, so that is Throgg. Now, I'm curious about Wulfrik's stats. I don't know if he'd be able to, like, beat Grimgor. Which would be funny, because isn't he supposed to, like, be the melee combatant? I mean, he can't even take on Archaon. I say he can't even. I would say that's fair, but... Yeah, so if there were any concerns of him being OP against enemy lords, I guess we can take care of that. But we'll test him. We'll test him a little bit, see what's what. But for now, let's take a look at some of these guys. Again, still going to look at the menus just so we can see their abilities and stuff, and then we'll dive into the infantry and stuff on the battlefield itself. So, Skin Wolf Werekin. Let's see, we've got Anti-Large, Damage Dealer, Frenzy, 70 Armor, 70 Leadership, 65 Speed, 50 Melee Attack, 38 Melee Defense. So that's actually, it's not low, but it's not high. 420 Weapon Strength, that's 280 Armor Piercing, 36 bonus versus Large, so that's pretty solid. And we've got a charge bonus of 40. No mounts, obviously no spells, no items. But we do have, let's see, Foe Seeker and Deadly Onslaught, and then this, Ruinous Flesh. 175 points, it's not terrible, gives a... Oh, it's a constant effect, okay. So that's plus 18 armor and plus 11% missile resistance to all allies within 30 meters. That's pretty good. For 175 points, that's not bad, especially if you're going to go up against somebody or a faction that has a lot of ranged units. It's not bad, especially because I think mammoths and stuff, you'll really have to, like, shoot them down. So, okay. The Skin Wolf Werekin himself has a physical resistance of 20%, missile resistance of 15%, causes fear, encourage, vanguard deployment, hides in forest, regeneration, frenzy, foe seeker, and deadly onslaught. Now, frenzy is plus 8 melee attack, plus 8% charge bonus, plus 12% weapon damage, and immunity to psychology. So as long as you can keep the leadership up, these stats are actually a lot better. 58 melee attack, that's pretty solid, and increased charge bonus as well as more weapon damage. Plus 12% weapon damage when you're at 420 is huge. So that's pretty solid for 1234 points. Now we've got the Shaman Sorcerer of Death. So we can get on a Norscan Warhorse or a Marauder Chariot. And apart from missile resistance, 15% in courage and hiding in forest, we've got Arcane Conduit, Rage, because it is a... Oh, that's a dude wearing a wolf pelt. Okay. Okay, I was very confused the hell I was looking at. Okay, so these Shaman Sorcerers aren't meant to fight. Their melee attack and melee defense are 30. Decent weapon strength, all things considered, but they're not meant to fight. And in terms of abilities, we've got your standard Spellcaster, Lore of Death thing going on. Shaman Sorcerer of Metal now. Same stuff, I believe. It does look like same statistically. It's just the lore of Metal. And then the Shaman Sorcerer of Fire. Again, everything is the same statistically, except it's the lore of Fire, which is pretty good. Okay. And then we've got the Fimir Balefiends. The first one is of Shadows. And this... Ooh, that's new. That's new. Okay. Spellcaster Armor. So these guys can actually fight a little bit. Their melee attack and melee defense is pretty low, so they'll need some support. But their weapon strength is absolutely massive. 400 and 320 armor-piercing damage. That's pretty big. 65 armor as well, so they have some staying power in that front. Don't send them into an armor-piercing horde, though. So yeah, these guys can actually fight somewhat, so they won't just die off if they get engaged in melee. We do have, let's see, missile resistance 15%, fear, encourage, hide in forest, some of these abilities, and okay, I guess let's dive into these then. That's Arcane Conduit and the Lower of Shadows, so that's okay. Nothing special there. Your typical scrolls as well. So, evasion, constant on self, plus 4% acceleration, plus 6% speed. Okay. So just to get the hell out of there when you need to. 47 cost is not that bad. Smoke and Mirrors, we know. From the Mist is an augment. As long as your leadership is above 50%, you have plus 22% missile resistance, and that's supposedly from the sort of fog and mist around the Fimir Balefiends. Okay, so those are the new abilities that we're looking at. Alright, and then the Fimir Balefiend of Fire is... Oh, that's interesting. They actually have different stats. The Balefiend of Shadows has lower melee defense. I wonder if that's intentional or not. Huh. Okay, well, good to know. But the Fimir Balefiend of Fire has better defensive capabilities. Also, both of these guys do have armor sundering and magical attacks, I should have mentioned. My apologies. Everything else, though, is the same down here. Spells, obviously, Lore of Fire. And let's see, what's the difference between the Shaman Sorcerer of Fire? Cost, obviously. But apart from that, so for the Fimir Balefiend, the only thing we're lacking is some melee attack. But, I mean... for less than 400 points, that's not so bad. Anyways, let's go to the field next. Again, this video might go into an hour and a half, actually, because there is quite a bit to cover here, and I might actually change, let's see, battle difficulty normal. Well, we're not testing yet, but I need to make sure to do that when we are testing, because obviously I don't want numbers to be affected by like morale and stuff that the enemy has. Looking for a nice, simple... Helfen is a pretty clean map as far as the lighting goes. Okay, so we've got Wulfrik. I do want him on his Mammoth, and right, I was going to make Funds Ultra and large armies. How far did we get? We got to the Marauder Champions with great weapons, Hunter with Javelin, Hunter. Oh, that's interesting. So the Hunters with Javelins are cheaper than the Hunters. Okay. Marauder Chariot, Ice Wolf Chariot, Horsey, 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 Norscan Warhounds. Actually curious about, just gonna check real quick. Chaos Warhounds. Okay, so they are the same. So Norscan Warhounds also do not have Vanguard deployment. Alright, good to know. Alright, how far can we go here? Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on, excellent. All right, we've got everything. Just got to set funds to custom and add a couple more zeros. Okay, no one is ranked up or anything. Just need to be careful of any aura effects, of course. Now, Warriors of Chaos are the defenders, And we're going to give them... Actually, no, that doesn't make sense. Let's say Bretonnia are the defenders, and it'll be Lord, who can just stay there, no spells, no abilities, no items. Okay. And on Helfen, for some reason we're fighting Bretonnia at Helfen. Okay, let's dive into this. Wulfrik is on his War Mammoth, because I want to get a good look at that baby, and let's dive onto the battle field. Yes. Just want to make sure I've got everything. I don't want to forget anything. Alright, yeah, we have a nice large area where we can deploy. Lighting's a little dark, moody. There's a big tower off in the distance. Should be beautiful. Should be beautiful. Alright. And hopefully Bretonnia doesn't get the clever idea of pushing forward and trying to hit me, because again, we are the attacker, they are the defender. Alright, we've got a lot of space back here. Come on, give me a straight line. Come on, there was one right there. I saw it. That is enough of a straight line. Okay, we're going to start with Wulfrik on his War Mammoth. I do want to start the battle and play it in slow motion. I know in Bretonnia some of you guys were like, hey, why not just keep it paused? But I like seeing things in slow motion because slow-mo makes everything infinitely cooler. So, start the battle, slow-mo, and let's start with Wulfrik the Wanderer atop his War Mammoth. Okay, so we've already seen the stats. Let's just take a look at the model here. Like, this is amazing. Oh wow, look at the details. Sorry, I'm totally going to geek out a little bit because this is gorgeous. And again, such beautiful eyes. Let's actually look at his Howdah as well. Oh, right, because he gets a throne. That is so cool. Oh my god. That is a nice throne. I wouldn't mind sitting on something like that. It's got little war drums as well. Skulls everywhere. I like his aesthetic. This is awesome. That's just okay. That's oh man, that is so cool. It's really beautiful art as well, man. These guys are so good. All right, okay, enough time ogling once again. Sorry guys, that'll happen a little bit here and there, but that is the War Mammoth of Wulfrik the Wanderer. So good. So good. So beautiful. Okay. Moving on. We've got our Marauders. I'm going to guess these guys are similar to the regular Marauders. They look pretty similar. They look just like the other Marauders. Let's see. Armor 15. Leadership is 68 because I'm guessing... Yeah, flank secure lord nearby, so it's actually 60, 35 speed, 34 melee attack, 28 melee defense, so pretty low. Weapon strength of 28, pretty low. Charge bonus of 16. So again, more like a fodder troop, I guess. Not really going to cause a lot of damage or eat much either. And then these are the Marauder Spearmen. So let's get a good look at these guys because these guys are new. Alright, so again, these guys are just your Marauders with the anti-large bonus, of course, with those giant spears. That just makes sense. And let's see, Marauder Spearmen. So 15 armor, I'm guessing 60 leadership. Yep. 35 speed, standard melee attack at 25 is pretty low, but the melee defense is 37, so these guys will have longer lasting power than the Marauders themselves. And then anti-large with the weapon strength, so that is a bonus versus large of 15. Not terrible. Alright, that's not bad. I don't know how much they'll be able to take on. Like, they might be able to deal with, like, Orc Boar Boy Biggins, because those guys are pretty low stats, all things considered, and I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe they'll deal with Black Knights, but they might be able to beat out Wild Riders, maybe Wild Riders with shields with the help of Rage. Like, if they're able to last long enough and the leadership kicks in and the physical resistance kicks in, they might be able to deal with some of the mid-tier cavalry units in the game. But yeah, I doubt they'll be hurting Blood Knights and like Damigriff Knights with halberds and stuff like that. I'd be very surprised if they're causing much pain to those guys. But we'll test it out in, again, probably the next video. We'll see how these guys fare against various large units that we can expect on the battlefield. I definitely want to get those tests in because I feel like that's really helpful when we're about to dive into the next, well, when you guys are going to dive into multiplayer battles and stuff. Anyways, Marauders with great weapons. So these guys, again, Marauders with great weapons. They look good. I'm not going to give everybody the zoomed-in treatment just because anybody got time for that. There's a lot to look at. Armor 15, leadership 60 again. Yeah, 35 speed, 32 melee attack, 20 melee defense. That's low. Weapon strength is armor piercing though, 20 armor piercing damage, and then charge bonus is 22. So there's a lot of like, there's a lot of filler. You can get some decent fodder troops in there to hold lines, I guess. But these guys, like a melee defense of 20, is really not that good. The Marauders are better, except of course the great weapons are armor piercing. So I don't know. Also, I forgot to mention with the Marauder Spearmen, of course, have charge defense against large. Though I shouldn't say, of course, because, you know, goblins distinctly lack that. Now, Icehorn Marauders are the first Regiment of Renown we're looking at on the battlefield. I think these guys do deserve a little bit of a zoom-in treatment, because they do get some extra work in them. But yeah, they look pretty good. I say as I, like, go down to crotch level. Ooh, they've got, like, little blue, linings and stuff, blue trim. Alright. After starting with a War Mammoth, you know, you kind of start at the top. Icehorn Marauders, so they're shielded, leadership of 70, I'm guessing. Yep. Armor 15 with the bronze shields, speed 35, melee attack 45, melee defense 38, weapons strength 28, and then 16 charge bonus. We do have immunity to vigor, immunity to psychology, so those things are important. And compared to your regular Marauders, these guys are fair bit better. Leadership is better, of course. Melee attack and melee defense are both a lot higher. So these guys will probably make it to the battlefield more often than not. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. You can only bring one of them, of course, but those are decent stats. All right, moving on to the Marauder Berserkers. So these guys are extremely squishy, I'm going to go ahead and guess. Because, okay, so armor 15 is not a lot of armor, and melee defense of 18 is not a lot of melee defense. But they do have the Berserk ability or trait, whatever you want to call it, which takes them down the path of raging a lot faster. They get the physical resistance is a lot higher, their leadership buff is a lot higher, their melee skills buff up to a lot higher. So as long as they're berserking, you might actually do pretty well. So let's take a look at those stats. If I can just zoom out, there we go. So let's see, yeah, so plus 16 leadership, and then it becomes plus 22% physical resistance, and plus 16 melee attack. Their leadership is 70 by base, or by default. 37 speed is okay, they're a little bit faster than some of your other units. Melee attack of 48, buffed by Frenzy, so it's actually 40. Melee defense is 18, again, very low. Weapon strength is 13 armor piercing right now, but it's not 57, that's being buffed by Frenzy as well. So keeping leadership up is important, but again, with Berserk, once you're in combat for 22 seconds, so half as long as Rage, you get that plus 16, so that'll make a big difference. And then charge bonus is 32 as well, but again, that's being buffed right now by Frenzy as well. So I feel like these guys will be able to defeat like Flagellants and Battle Pilgrims, and like they'll be good for taking out, I guess, like Spearmen, Halberdiers maybe. So maybe they like accompany your cavalry or your Skin Wolves to keep those units busy while your cavalry is able to then circumvent the anti-large enemy units, I guess, that are on foot. But I think the moment there's like heavy armor in play, or like even a half-decent like melee attack, these guys are going to have trouble. They're going to fall apart. Their melee defense is very low. So I don't know how long these guys can last on the field. So it'll be interesting to see for sure. And these are the brutes of the Hound, the Regiment of Renown Marauder Berserkers. They look relatively similar. They have these little shoulder pads, I guess. Nice and red. They've got their axes that are red hot, it looks like. Someone mentioned if I had hair like that, I would go berserk as well. I think that's absolutely hilarious. That is pretty pretty bad hair. Like, it's well done, good art, but I would hate to have this hair. It looks like a comb over, like half a comb over, except there's more hair there. It's like, why would you even need to do that? This guy, though, that guy looks sick. I wouldn't go berserk if I looked like him. But yeah, so these guys, let's get some comparisons in there. So the Brutes of the Hound have, in comparison to regular Marauder Berserkers, better melee defense, much better melee attack, and they're unbreakable. So that makes a big difference. The higher melee defense is going to make a huge difference, maybe with a couple of buffs as well. With a couple of buffs, the Marauder Berserkers would actually be okay, I guess, if the melee defense of 18 gets buffed up, or if something gives them more armor. You know, perhaps with the Lore of Fire, these guys could do quite well, actually. So these guys will certainly have their place on the battlefield. You just have to be careful, make sure the leadership stays up. These guys will always be frenzied, though. The Brutes of the Hound, they will always have frenzy because they are unbreakable, immune to psychology. So, yeah, they'll get some use on the field, and they obviously have Berserk as well. So, moving on to the Marauder Champions. Now, these guys, if I recall correctly, are vying for their... I guess in the most literal of senses, they're aspiring champions. They're aspiring to become champions of the Dark Gods. With a beard that short, you're not impressing anybody, guy. Or you. What is this? What is this? These are all short beards. I thought they had longer beards. But yeah, so these guys... Sorry, just kind of admiring the art a little bit. Alright, so these guys are a little bit heavier duty, looks like. We've got 80 armor, bronze shields, that's 35%, sorry. Leadership is 80, but that's of course with flank secure, so base value is 75, speed of 35, similar speeds, 36 melee attack, 49 melee defense though, so these guys can hold a line, which is good. Their weapon strength is 39, and their charge bonus is 12, so with a melee defense of 49, I expect they'll be holding a line pretty well, you know, be the anvil so that the hammer can come crashing in with beautiful rear charges, causing a lot of damage instantaneously. But these guys themselves, they should have no trouble against, I would say, mid-tier infantry or low-tier infantry, so like Graveguard, Skeleton Warriors, obviously not a problem. Graveguard should be fine. I'm just trying to think. Swordsmen will probably be fine, but they'll have trouble against great swords, probably. They should be fine against flagellants, Goreherd, maybe even with shields. I'm trying to remember the stats off the top of my head. You should at least be able to hold a line against, like, Goreherd with shields, and then Battle Pilgrims or Foot Squires. Again, we will be testing all of this against, like, the more common units on the battlefield, just to see what they will, how they stack up to the meta, basically. But again, heavy armor or armor piercing will probably become some serious trouble. These guys are not going to be beating, I don't think, the Bestigor herd, or they will just thinly beat them, but eat a lot of damage, so I don't really count that. Great swords will be some trouble as well. Long beards with great weapons. They might sometimes come out on top, but I think these guys like eat a lot of hurt against units like that. So again, we'll find out for sure when we're testing. And if you guys have any requests for, you know, what you want to see in terms of testing, let me know in the comments below. Like I said, this week I'm going to try and compile like a response video or something to all of your questions. I should hopefully have the time to do that, and then we can, you know, take a look at some of those, some of the answers to your... Wow! I like these weapons. Sorry, yeah, so we can take a look at the answers to some of your questions. Yeah. Oh my god! I would not want to be hit by that. Sorry if I blew your eardrums there, guys. But I just caught a glimpse of it, and that is... Oh my god. It's pretty good. Alright, these guys look sick. And so they are Marauder Champions with great weapons. So they should cover the gap that Sorry, I get completely distracted by how these things look. They should cover the gap left by the Marauder Champions. So we've got 80 armor, 70 leadership, 33 speed, so just a touch slower, 36 melee attack, very low melee defense. Once again, 28 melee defense. Weapon strength of 40, how much of that is armor piercing? 30 armor piercing. And charge bonus of 20. Okay. Yeah, so they'll cover the gap, but 28 melee defense is really low, so I don't know if they will do well. Like, they'll do better against, you know, like great swords or longbeards with great weapons and stuff, but that's a very low melee defense. I feel like Norsca so far, if you're going with a human army, Norsca really needs the melee defense buffs from magic or abilities or whatever it might be, so that's good to know. That is good to know. But again, we'll test these guys out. Now, next up, we've got Marauder Hunters with Javelins. So again, so the Javelin throwers are actually... okay, good, he's staying there. These guys are cheaper than their non-Javelin throwing counterpart. So that is important to keep in mind. And these guys are anti-large with their Javelins. And they're also on top of regular War Mammoths, getting some anti-large assistance in there. But God knows how much damage they'll actually do. So these are one of 2 missile infantry units that Norsca have access to. And let's take a look at some of their stats. Come on, party. Stay on track here. Alright, so Marauder Hunters with Javelins are Mer 15, leadership of 50. Okay, pretty low. Where are we? Speed of 35, melee attack 26. Of course, they're not supposed to stick around in melee. Weapon strength of 28, charge bonus of 8. Hopefully you never have to use that. So 16 ammunition, so that's not a lot of ammo, but a range of 90. It's not highly ranged either. Does that... I'm trying to remember the stats of, like, you know, Goblin, Wolf Rider, Archers, and things. I'm not 100% sure if these guys outrange them by a lot. Not by a lot, most certainly. But the missile damage is decent. 35 missile damage, and that is... There's a 15 bonus versus large. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. So they'll be good for taking down flyers, like maybe if you're up against Bretonnia or the Empire, you'll want to have at least 2 or 3 of these guys just to focus down on, you know, the General of the Empire or, you know, Royal Pegasus Knights or something. We'll test these guys out, but I feel like they'll certainly have their place on the battlefield, especially against an army that will have some flyers. And these guys are the Marauder Hunters, so these guys are not anti-large. Instead, they've got double axes and a decent dance, I guess. Hopefully a good roar, too, it looks like. But these guys are... Let's see, so what's the difference? Actually, there's quite a bit of a difference. So the melee attack is higher, melee defense is lower, charge bonus is higher, ammo, range, and missile damage are all lower. But their missile damage is armor piercing, 21 armor piercing damage. It's not bad. It's not bad. So they are more expensive than the Marauders with Hunters. I guess you're so you take the Marauder Hunters against... I don't know if you take them against dwarfs. But you might take them against the Warriors of Chaos. The reason why you wouldn't take them against dwarfs is because they'll be severely outranged by, you know, not Thunder's Quarrelers, and their armor is negligible, so they'll very quickly fall apart, I'm sure, in a ranged battle. Just on the way to closing the gap to get in range, these guys will probably be completely destroyed. Their leadership is also just 50, so I don't know. I don't know, and they won't be in melee. This only recharges if engaged in melee, so... we'll see. We'll see how much use these guys get. They'll be good for, I mean, providing support, granted, against like Warriors of Chaos again, if they can close the gap. But moving on, the Marauder Chariot, anti-infantry chariots. So these guys will most certainly see action against the dwarfs because, I mean, I don't think I have to explain why, but this is your standard Chaos Chariot, I guess. Let's take a look at the stats. We've got 85 armor, leadership of 75, speed of 80, so pretty fast, of course. It is a chariot. 22 melee attack, melee defense of 28, but that's fine. You're not supposed to keep these guys engaged. Oh, but if you do, they get all these crazy stat boosts. I wonder if we'll ever see these guys raging. But, yeah, don't keep these guys in combat. They're just like any other chariot. The anti-infantry bonus, though, should be pretty hefty. 18 bonus, but it's those wheels that do it, man. When they come charging in with that charge bonus of 76, yeah, hit and run with these Marauder Chariots and get a lot of work done. But now let's move on to the Marauder Ice Wolves Chariot. So this is what an Ice Wolf looks like. This is what an Ice Wolf looks like. You know what I'm doing. Alright. So this is an Ice Wolf Chariot. Overall pretty standard, I think, in terms of its look, except, of course, we've got Ice Wolves. They look pretty sick. I like the little sheen got going. This little, like, glossy sheen. Alright. So, what's their deal? Marauder Ice Wolf Chariots are... okay, a lot better than regular chariots. They've got 360 more health, 15 more speed, plus 10 to melee attack, and plus 13 to weapon strength. They also have Frostbite, of course, which does the negative 52% to speed. So if you're chasing down ranged units or you're chasing down routers, you can just make sure that they get stuck in and eat a bit more hurt. Not bad. The anti-infantry here bonus is 18. And these guys also throw armor-piercing missiles. Huh. 21 armor-piercing damage there. So that's a pretty solid unit, especially... see, now here's something you could use against the dwarfs, because you're going to close the gap very quickly. You'll get in range. You throw a couple of armor-piercing missiles into, you know, Longbeards or Quarrelers or Thunderers or whatever. You dive in, cause some fear, get some of that frostbite going, basically stopping the dwarfs from moving at all, and then hit and run and show them who's boss, basically. But I feel like these guys will get some use in more scenarios than just that. They'll do well against Warriors of Chaos that are infantry heavy. Again, anywhere where a chariot would do well, these guys would do just slightly better. My god, these Ice Wolves must be freezing. They're like nose deep in water. I feel sorry for these guys. But yeah, so that's a pretty solid unit. I'd like to see... I'm looking forward to testing these guys out, actually. But moving on to the Marauder Horsemen, these guys are your standard sort of missile cavalry. We've got low armor, leadership of 45, so that's pretty terrible, actually. Speed of 92, so these they'll be able to keep their distance. A melee attack of 18, melee defense of 16. Don't send these guys into melee outside of extremely desperate situations. A weapon strength of 24, charge bonus of 16. Not a lot of ammo. Range of 75, so it's not terrible, but again, you're not going to be taking these guys, I don't think, against... maybe you could take them to dwarfs, but hit some slayers maybe, as slayers are chasing your cavalry, but there's such low armor. They've got the speed, but they'll be a bit more niche. And a missile damage of 28. Of course, they do have rage. They can fire while moving, vanguard deployment, all those typical things. And we've got the Marauder Horsemen with their throwing axes. These guys are more likely to see, of course, because they are armor piercing, so these guys can get involved against dwarves, Warriors of Chaos, get a little bit of that armor piercing damage in. It is 21 points of armor-piercing damage. Same range, or actually a little bit shorter range. I guess their weapons are heavier. So shorter range, 12 ammo. Again, low armor, low leadership. So overall, they'll be in a tough spot. You don't want them to get caught in melee. Again, we know about missile cavalry, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that. This is Marauder Horsemasters. Again, same thing, different horse. Speed of 90, so I guess a touch slower. Those guys were 92, right? Yeah. But apart from that, better in almost every other way. Well, better in every other way except for weapon strength, and of course their missile damage is not deemed as armor piercing. Again, firewall moving, vanguard deployment, we're used to this stuff. But moving on to the Norscan Warhounds. So we did check. Okay, these guys look ugly, but like not in terms of the art, as in they're supposed to look ugly. Oh my god, what the... that is not natural. That is not a cute dog. Okay. Didn't realize how close I was to that one. Alright, so these guys, as we saw with their stats, are actually the same as Chaos Warhounds. They don't have Vanguard deployment. They are... well, I mean, they're the same as other Warhounds. So I think it's the Beastmen Warhounds that still have Vanguard deployment. I don't know if that's going to change, but got missile resistance of 15%. We know how to use Warhounds, so we're going to skip past that. But there are the Beasts of Tashnar, and these guys are a little bit more blue, and they have these little, whatchamacallit, brands on them, I guess. And apart from that, they also look pretty messed up, but, yeah, just a touch more blue to, you know, the colder you are, the better you are up in Norsca, apparently. Oh my god, how could you be so ugly and still survive? But that's the Beasts of Tashnar. How much better are they? So plus 18 melee attack, plus 8 melee defense, plus 2 to weapon strength, and plus 1 to charge bonus, and they are anti-large as well. They've got frenzy, immunity to psychology. Alright, missile resistance of 50%. Yeah, 50% missile resistance. So that's actually pretty good considering the role that Warhounds typically get. So against like Wood Elves and stuff, I wonder how well they will do to like chase down stray range units. They're anti-large as well, so you know if some Wild Riders come in, they can cause some damage there too. So these guys might actually see some use. I mean, Warhounds see use as well, but I just mean as a Regiment of Renown, they might be worth the extra cost. So we'll see how the meta, I guess, develops. But that's pretty good. Now these are the Norscan Ice Wolves. So these guys are actually very different from the regular Chaos Warhounds in look and in statistics as well, which we can correct, or which we can check right on the field here. Let's take a look, in fact. So, Warhounds versus Norscan Ice Wolves. Ice Wolves have better leadership, better melee attack, better melee defense, only slightly. Much better weapon strength, and much better charge bonus as well. And they cause fear. Plus, their melee attack actually does frostbite. So, actually... Huh, interesting. Okay, so Norscan Ice Wolves will actually mess up regular Warhounds. So you've got sort of an interceptor unit here, I guess. These guys can cut in and shut down enemy Warhounds, prevent mobility on the field, slow down enemy Warhounds, and then allow your units that those Warhounds were chasing to escape. So if you've got like your Marauder Hunters back there and you need them to get out, you get these Ice Wolves to protect them by slowing down enemy fast units that are coming in. Hopefully not cavalry, because these guys are not anti-large, but that's pretty neat. And then they can shut down enemy routers as well, slow them down so your cavalry can close the gap or anything like that. So that's pretty interesting. And ranged cavalry as well, actually, now that I think about it. Speed 95. That is faster than, for example, all of the ranged cavalry that the Norscans have, and I'm pretty sure it's faster than most ranged cavalry across the game. Just trying to remember the stats here. And then you get Frostbite in there, and that ranged cavalry isn't getting anywhere. You've got a melee attack of 32. So yeah, you can actually shut down ranged cavalry with these Norscan Ice Wolves. So that's cool. I like that. It'll be nice seeing these guys on the field. I feel like they will get a decent amount of action, considering, I mean, depending on the faction you're up against, obviously. But moving on, we've got some Trolls. And Norscan Trolls, I'm going to go ahead and guess, just based on how they look as well. They all have antlers? Do Trolls have antlers? For some reason that looks different, but I might be wrong. My God, you're ugly. But these guys, I'm going to go ahead and guess, are the exact same stats as regular Trolls. So armor piercing damage, low leadership. You'll have to level them up to keep their leadership intact. But let's see. So we've got regeneration, of course, armor 40, leadership 43, but that's 38 base, 54 of speed, 36, 24 melee attack and defense, armor piercing is 63 points, and charge bonus is 30. So, and yeah, the weakness to fire, of course. I feel like this is just like any other troll, so you'll see the same use as other trolls. And where are the Ice Trolls? The Ice Trolls are actually a step more expensive than the Skin Wolves, so they're a step over. I'm going to skip the Skin Wolves real quick just to look at the Ice Trolls. The Ice Trolls are lower melee attack, lower melee defense, or no. There we go. Higher melee attack, that makes sense. Higher melee attack, higher melee defense, decently higher weapon strength, and decently higher charge bonus as well. They also have Frostbite, of course, and armor piercing damage that goes up to 69. Alright, so let's take a look at these bad boys. So these guys are obviously different. You can spot the difference. They have a slightly different tint to the other trolls on the field. A little less gray, a little more blue. I love how they look. They actually look really sick. And I like the little clubs as well. Oh, oh man, someone died in there. Oh my God, that's a skull. That's a nice little touch. So these are just like little chunks of... Oh my... Okay, that's good. Little like chunks of ice that have people still rotting in there. I think the guy still has his guts. And a face that's not completely decomposed. That's really neat. Nice touches. That's a nice touch. But yeah, so these guys are a bit more strong than Trolls, but they have very low leadership as well, so you'll need to buff that. Of course, in the campaign, that will buff through Throgg's abilities and stuff, but them's the Norscan Ice Wolves. Let's take a look at, or Ice Wolves, the Norscan Ice Trolls. Let's hop back to the Skin Wolves now. So these guys will be cheaper than the Ice Trolls, but more expensive than regular Trolls. So Skin Wolves, again, these guys just look straight up awesome. Again, I guess the story is they literally tear out of the flesh of the Marauder that has been infected by this, you know, disease, I suppose it were. So they're werewolves, and that's like this pink stuff is all the flesh left behind. I'm very curious. Okay, I'm pretty happy about that shot. I'm very curious about how that works when you get put back together. Like, do you just have a bunch of, like, you have to get stitches? What you up to, buddy? Oh, they look great. But we saw them in the stream that CA put out, and they are anti-large, as we've seen. But let's take a look at all the stats properly now. So armor 15, so pretty low on armor. 65 leadership, but that's down at 60. 75 speed, so pretty fast. Melee attack of 40, but that's with Frenzy active. Melee defense of 28, so that's not very high. They are anti-large. Bonus versus large is 30. Their armor piercing is 21 points. Again, Frenzy is active. Their charge bonus is 32. Again, Frenzy is active. They do have physical resistance, so that's going to be big. Their armor might be low, but that physical resistance of 20% will make a big difference on the battlefield. They are weak to fire, though, because they have regeneration. Okay, cause fear, obviously. Hide and Forest, immune to psychology, regeneration, and frenzy, as we saw already. So these guys will probably do well. Just looking at the stats, they'll probably do pretty well against like light cavalry and lightly armored large units in general. So crypt horrors, they should be able to take out. I think it was in the stream from Creative Assembly, we saw 2 units of Skin Wolves take out the Knights of the Realm. So they will be with their uses. They're pretty fast. They'll be good flanking units. And I'm curious, actually. Okay, I'm glad I took Helfen because... Okay, interesting. So Skin Wolves actually count as regular-sized units. They are not large units. And the way you can know that is because when you have a unit selected and you hover over the terrain where they should get debuffs, if it's like the forest, it won't actually list their debuffs because they're not actually large. So Skin Wolves count as small units, or regular-sized units, not small, which is interesting to know because then if you go after like Knights of the Realm, which I believe are anti-large, these guys will have the upper hand. So they're like Spearmen, except, you know, wolves and stronger. So interesting. Interesting. So with that said, though, I don't think they'll stand against like Demigryph Knights with Halberds or Blood Knights and things like that. Anti-infantry too we'll have to test out. Like, I don't know if they'll do well against, you know, Graveguard. Their armor's pretty low, but the melee defense is not that high. Melee attack is really high though, and the physical resistance we have to remember. So maybe they will do well against like Flagellants. Probably do well against like Battle Pilgrims. We'll test it out, but you do have to be careful about the regeneration. So I feel like fire is going to be really important to bring against Norsca, which is, I mean, I guess kind of obvious. But these guys now are the armored Skin Wolves. So what are the difference statistically speaking? Armored Skin Wolves words are, they have more armor. Surprise, surprise. Lower speed. Okay, that makes sense. But apart from that, they are exactly the same. Yeah. So let's see. We've got 70 armor, 60 leadership, I'm guessing. Yeah. 65 speed, 40 melee attack with frenzy, 28 melee defense, 65 weapon strength with frenzy, 21 is armor piercing, bonus versus large is 30, and charge bonus is 32 again with frenzy. Again, the physical resistance, I believe, is 20%, so we've got that going for us, which is actually, that's crazy, because they've got the armor and they also have the physical resistance, so that will make a pretty big difference. I wonder if... I still don't think these guys will be able to take on, like, Blood Knights and Demigryph Knights with Halberds. Their melee defense is just extremely low, these guys. And I can't remember the stats offhand, but, I don't know. I'd be shocked if these guys are able to take out, again, Demis with Halberds or Blood Knights. Give me one with, like, a lot of armor. And is this what counts as 70 armor? This isn't a lot of armor. They have, like, a shoulder pad, a not shin pad, like something covering their thighs. No helmets. This is how you die from headshots. No helmets. But yeah, so curious if how well they'll do. We'll test it out, obviously, but it'll be interesting if you can just ride with wolves and it's like skin wolves and armored skin wolves and just deal a lot of hurt to enemy large units. But if I recall correctly, they're not expensive enough to warrant that. I know we are at the hour mark, but we're almost done here. Just a handful of units more to go, so we might be another 20 minutes or so. And then testing will have to be reserved, obviously, for the next video. But we're moving on to the Fimir Warriors. So let's take a look at these guys, because this is unlike anything we've seen before. The little lizard cyclopses, so I guess they're kind of lizardy, which we've seen. But my god, they look horrifying. Absolutely hideous. I love how ugly Norsca is. They've got these giant, I don't even know what to call these. I'm sure they have an actual name. I'm going to call them maces, though. Is that the closest equivalent I can think of? Hammer maces? Mace hammers? But, yeah, these guys look pretty great. Seem pretty timid, not roaring or anything. Come on, buddy. Give me a shout. Give me something. Nothing? But yeah, these guys look awesome. Oh, see, this guy knows what's up. He's wearing a helmet. That's what you do. You gotta protect your helmet. Your head. Alright, but, so these guys are pretty cool to look at, but we've done enough of that, so let's, stop doing it. And let's look at their stats. So, Fimir Warriors, Monstrous Infantry, Armored, Armor Piercing, Armor Sundering, 110 armor. Yeah, see, that's what I call armored. 65 leadership, I guess it's, yeah, actually 60, 45 speed, so they're decently fast. Melee attack of 34, armor sundering, and magical attack. So that is pretty big. That's pretty solid. Use these guys against dwarfs, and they'll be forced to bring great weapons to the field. Fimir Warriors are armor piercing with 64 armor piercing damage. And again, the regular damage, so the way armor works is it's a percentage-based reduction of regular damage coming through, and armor piercing damage cuts right through. So with armor sundering, you're reducing that resistance to regular damage, so there'll be a great support troop. Maybe you can like checkerboard Fimir Warriors with less expensive units and get a decent amount of damage done because of the armor sundering, so that's cool, and they'll do well against like Cairn Wraiths and stuff like that as well, obviously. And the melee defense isn't bad either. 38, it's not high by any means, but it's close to 40. It's not terrible. It's not like any of the other sort of Marauder units that were in the like mid-20s. So it's not bad. And the missile resistance, 22%, I'm guessing, from the mist. So as long as the leadership is above 30, yeah, as long as the leadership is above 30, they'll have that 22% missile resistance. So good for the run-up, but don't let them eat too much fire. They cause fear as well. So that's the Fimir Warriors, and we do also have Fimir Warriors with great weapons. So let's skip the Maws of Savagery and go to the Fimir Warriors with great weapons just to get a comparison in. Oh my. That would hurt. I would not want to get hit by that. All right, let's do a quick stat comparison here. So lower melee attack, of course, lower melee defense, of course, but plus 15 weapon strength, anti-large, as well as armor piercing. Speed of 45, so can they keep up with our armored skin wolves? Not really. But armor of 110, leadership of 60, armor sundering, magical damage as well. Let's see these bonuses. Bonus versus large is 30, armor piercing is 64, and again, we do still have the From the Mist ability. So very similar to the other, to the regular counterpart, except obviously with great weapons. And my oh my, are they great. So that's pretty sweet. I'm curious what the standard all-monster comp is going to be like with these guys. Oh boy. They must have a tail whip attack. I would be shocked if they do not have a tail whip attack. Alright, these guys just getting me excited for game 2 again, because Lizardmen. Alright, so monster armies are obviously going to be a possibility with Norsca. I'm very curious what the composition is going to be. We've got Fimir Warriors with great weapons. They'll do well against large units, even if they're armored, obviously. I'm curious if, for example, they can beat Minotaurs. It's a unit of 9 individuals. Again, this is on large unit size, which most like tournaments and I believe quick battles are in large unit size as well. So it's 9 units. Could they do well against halberdier, like demigryph knights with halberds? Are they large? They are large. Okay. So it'll be interesting to pit them against like demis with halberds and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm very curious about how they do against Minotaurs with great weapons. I feel like this is a similar unit to that in terms of flavor, so I'm very curious about that. But before we move on, we move back to the Maws of Savagery. So these are Regiment of Renown Skin Wolves. This guy knows what's up. See, he's got... I mean, we could call that a helmet. That looks so cool, actually. Hold on. Messed up eyes. That's a nice helm. I want a helmet like that, actually. That is pretty sick. I'm very tempted to get like a... Actually, no, I'm not gonna mention it. But yeah, these guys look awesome. So these are the Maws of Savagery with their red eyes. And they are Armored Skin Wolves, Regiment of Renown. So let's see how they stack up to Armored Skin Wolves, which are down here. Maws of Savagery, plus 11 leadership, plus 11 melee attack, plus 10 melee defense, and a slightly reduced weapon strength, but a lot more health as well. And they are also... Ooh, they can Vanguard deploy. Interesting. Okay, so Vanguard deployment, physical resistance is still 20%. They obviously have fire weakness because of the regeneration. They've got Frenzy, immunity to psychology, which, if I recall correctly, Skin Wolves do have as well, so I did not recall correctly. Alright, so Vanguard deployment. Not a lot of that in this army, if I'm remembering right. So I really wonder, I guess you can like try and get these guys to sneak in from behind to take out... you can send them in as scouting parties against, I guess, Wild Riders and things like that. Maybe keep them hidden to sneak in and attack enemy range units from behind, but they'll be safe from enemy cavalry that tries to respond. So they definitely have a place on the battlefield, but will they be worth their cost is something we'll have to find out over time. So that's that. Them's the Maws of Savagery, and these are the Mist Stalkers. These guys actually have mist around them. That's pretty great. So the Fimir Warriors, Regiment of Renown, actually has mist around them. I like that a lot. That's a really... It's these little things that make my day. As many of you guys already know, these little kind of details make my day. So, you know what? Yeah, how would you shoot something? Like, I can see how the logic of not being able to hit these guys with your missiles makes sense when you see the mist so densely packed around them. It gets a little fuzzy. You're not going to get your hits right, and yeah, I just realized it reminds me of Krogan's from Mass Effect. Anyways. Enough about that. Let's take a look at their stats. So again, these guys are Fimir Warriors. So let's get a quick comparison to Fimir Warriors. Plus 10 leadership, plus 11 melee attack, plus 12 melee defense. And I know a lot of this stuff is from ranking up, but we're just looking at stats, so might as well remove that that limitation of things we're comparing here. Mist Stalkers are also terrifying, and they have Vanguard deployment, and they can stalk. Right, because I made that mist pun. Right, I remember that. All right, so this is actually pretty horrifying. Armor of 110, 70 leadership. I'm guessing that actually is base. Yep, 45 speed, 45 melee attack, 50 melee defense, which is solid, very solid. Weapon strength of 80, and 64 of that is armor piercing, and a charge bonus of 25. Not going to be charging in. Armor sundering, magical attacks, bring them in from the side, you know, stock them up, get a lot of hurt, and they're a great support troop, actually. And I wonder if... I mean, you'd have to sneak them up separately because of their stock ability, but with Fear and Terror as well, the amount of damage they'll be pushing out with armor sundering, weapon strength, and if they go in alongside, you know, like these Fimir Warriors with great weapons or something, the amount of damage output right there alongside Fear and Terror will very quickly dissolve a flank, especially against, you know, like Greenskins or Bretonnia, if they're not supported by, you know, the Grail Reliquae or something like that. So that's pretty solid there. And now we've got the Norscan Giant. So we're into the rare beasties here, almost done. This guy, again, as we were told, oh my god, he looks sad. In, like, the best possible way. Poor chap. He just wants another swig. This guy is thirsty. So, again, they built a unique model for the Giant, but if I recall correctly, the stats are pretty similar to any other Giant. So it's not actually structurally different, but or technically different, I guess, but visually, it's nice that the little extra attention has been paid to make them unique. Beautiful model as well. I love these little details. Like, he's been shot up, but he just cannot be bothered or has he been shot up, or did he just steal shields that were shot up and is now wearing those shields? I don't know. Is that blood? There's a lot of stitches. Is he patching up his damage with, like, metal bits and stuff? Oh my god, what an ugly face. Alright, so that is the Norscan Giant. Who died there? This concerns me quite a bit. Alright, so that is the Norscan Giant. Again, I feel like the stats are similar. That's 100 leadership, which I think all Giants have. Weapon strength of 530, that's 400 armor piercing, so... Just had his head cut off there. Yeah, I feel like that's your standard standard Giant. Moving on, the Feral Mammoth. Manny the Mammoth with their horrifying, absolutely disgusting, what I like to call truncticles. It's very unnerving, makes me extremely uncomfortable, but that just means the art is amazing. Look at that thing. That's disgusting. I'm allured by it, but I also hate it. Look at that. Look at that. Oh my god. But yeah, so this is the Feral Mammoth. Does not have the Howdah, does not have Wulfrik upon its back, is amply messed up, and you know what? I guess that those are staples and pustules. Okay, anytime I get a butt... Oh, anytime I get a looking pretty shot, I know what I'm pointing at. But with that said, let's look at their stats. Sorry, I can't wait to take Norsca to the field. Armor piercing anti-infantry causes terror. None of these stats are, or none of these attributes are surprising. We've got an armor of 30, so very low armor. Leadership of 60, it's 55 base, so that's also pretty low. Speed of 56, melee attack is 25, but of course it's probably got that sweeping, strikes. 30 melee defense isn't terrible. In fact, a lot of the actual soldiers have worse melee defenses. Weapon strength of 525. That's 400 armor piercing and a bonus versus infantry of 5. And the charge bonus of 80. Causes fear and terror, as we already discussed, and also a siege attacker. Now, these guys, they'll be great against, I think, any infantry army. But if your opponent has gone heavy on range, I think the Feral Mammoths will be in a lot of trouble. Leadership is very low. With enough range damage and the low armor that these guys have, I think they'll start to fall apart very quickly. They'll get very scared, and they don't rage or rampage. I do wish they had that, just elephants from previous Total War games. But so I don't know how long these guys will last on the field. If they're put under a tremendous amount of fire. Oh my god, what's in your mouth? Why did you put that in your mouth? What did you eat? Oh my god, it has a mouth. Oh, it has a fully modeled mouth, actually. See, from this angle, this guy's pretty cute. No, this guy's not cute. What am I saying? No, this guy's cute. Well, it can't be mean to little elephants. But yeah, sorry. What was I saying? This is the problem with looking at things. Yeah, I don't know how long these guys will last on the field necessarily. They will take a decent amount of leadership damage. But moving on to their big brothers, I guess. This, we'll leave the Frostworm for last because. Oh, I just realized I'm not deploying, so pull back. Don't disrupt my shots. All right, so this is the War Mammoth. Obviously a bit better off than the Feral Mammoth. Quite significantly, actually. We've got more health, of course. Oh man, 10,000 plus. Plus 40 armor, plus 15 leadership, and plus 5 melee attack. We have, what is this? Favor of the Ruinous Power. So, okay, keep in mind leadership is being buffed by the War Mammoth with the War Shrine, but that ends just among these three. Yeah, so just keep that in mind. The leadership is actually quite a bit lower. It is not 16 more than the Feral Mammoth. It is just, base value is 60, so it's just 5 more, I guess? Yeah. I caught it this time, unlike the Grail Relique of Bretonnia. So yeah, so the War Mammoth is, again, 70 armor. Leadership is actually 60, 56 speed, so relatively fast. Melee attack and melee defense, both 30, so they're all right there. We've got 525 weapon strength, 400 armor piercing bonus versus infantry 5, charge bonus 80, and then we've got the actual javelin throwers on the Howdah back here. And these guys are tossing javelins, so they're anti-large. They've got a decent amount of ammo and a decent range as well. Missile damage of 35 and a bonus versus large of 15. So that is serious business. These guys will be good against armor. Sorry, these guys will be good against infantry that's armored, and they will also do a good job against large units that might come to protect them, because these guys are tossing their javelins from the back. Now, I don't know how effective that will actually be, what the firing rate is, or anything like that, but if these guys are tossing javelins from the back while the Mammoth herself is getting a decent amount of work done to infantry, pretty valuable. Leadership, again, though, is pretty low, so I imagine enough firepower will take these guys down. Swarming these guys with enough damage, charging in with like Demigryph Knights with halberds, and then also opening shots off, maybe an artillery shot or two, will get a lot of work done. What are you putting in your mouth? That's disgusting. Probably a dead body, like a corpse. We're at Helfen. So yeah, so this... We're obviously going to see a lot of mammoths on the field, especially because they're mammoths and they're going to be awesome to watch. And the art is also very beautiful. Just want to spend a second here to admire the work done here. Love good art. Oh man, it's horrifying. But yeah, so that's the War Mammoth. A bit more powerful than the Feral Mammoth, of course, because it's got anti-large capabilities. It's a bit more tamed. It's a bit more confident in its abilities, let's say. Just sounds adorable. And then here we have the Soul Crusher, which is the Regiment of Renown for the War Mammoth. And let's just compare stats real quick. Again, plus 10 to leadership. And that's an actual plus 10. It's not 85. Again, the War Shrine is helping out, but it is a plus 10 compared to the War Mammoth. We have plus 11 to melee attack and melee defense. So that's pretty solid. What else do we have with Soul Crusher? We do have... range 90 still got the anti-large. We do also have Enrage, right. So this gives us 44% damage resistance for 11 seconds and has a 90-second cooldown. So that's pretty solid. Again, I mentioned this in my other video as well about the Regiments of Renown. This means that you can close the gap, stay safe, relatively safe, from ranged fire, so keep your leadership relatively safe as well, considering the damage taken otherwise, and then, you know, dive in, get a decent amount of melee done. Or, of course, if you're getting swarmed by, say, anti-large infantry or anti-large, cavalry or whatever it might be, you can get that activated, and you'll be relatively safe. 44% damage resistance is huge. So, Soul Crusher, depending on price, again, the War Mammoths and the Feral War Mammoth, the War Mammoths, everything gets really expensive in terms of point cost. So you're going to see significantly smaller armies if you're going in with mammoths and monster builds. Chances are, if you're going in with a mammoth, you're going to have a largely human army to afford a decent-sized army alongside a war mammoth. So that is Soul Crusher. Wonderful name for a wonderful mammoth. And this looks awesome. I've been eyeing this for a while. I even caught it in the campaign intro video. So this is the War Mammoth with the War Shrine. Now, the War Mammoth with the War Shrine has armor of 70, leadership of 75, and it'll always be 70, at least if you bring in, I believe it comes by default, the Giver of... No, not the Giver of Glory. The Favor of the Ruinous Powers ability. So, speed of 40, melee attack 30, melee defense 30, all right. 525 weapon strength. Again, armor piercing 400, bonus versus infantry 5, charge bonus of 80. The big differences are plus 10 to leadership, which is a big deal when you've got more mammoths, I guess. And some of these units are... yeah, like they help trolls out, because trolls have pretty low leadership. Leadership isn't terrible across the board, but plus 10 leadership makes a huge difference. The morale game is very serious in Total War, so that makes a pretty big difference. Get out of the shot. I'm working here. The War Mammoth with the War Shrine, though, also has the Giver of Glory ability, which not only makes a unit unbreakable for 16 seconds, but also makes them deal fire damage. So it's kind of funny coming from Norsca, but you can use that to your advantage when you're fighting, you know, for example, Morgur, or you're fighting the Sternsmen, Crypt Horrors, anything that has regeneration. That fire damage will make a big difference, and Unbreakable will counter the fact that, you know, the unit that's been imbued with that effect has is around frightening and terrifying units. But this is the War Mammoth with the Chaos War Shrine, and most of it looks the same, but the shrine, oh my god, that looks awesome. Okay, this dude is, I guess, a shaman wearing a wolf pelt there. That looks absolutely beautiful. I love the little purple kind of glowing effect that we've got going on. What is this for? It's like if something gets... It's like a little catcher's mitt, I guess. But yeah, that looks... That's just... That looks dope. That looks awesome. Yeah, so I mean, monster armies are going to be possible. I guess you'd want to try and take the War Shrine if you're going in with a monster army. Is that a like... I wonder if things are sacrificed on that. But you'll want to have the leadership boosts when you're going in with trolls, I think. Because again, the anti-infantry capabilities are solid across the board, but it's the anti-large that the War Mammoth, the regular War Mammoth, has that helps out tremendously. This is... I really like the colors, I'm sorry. Aesthetics make me very happy. But yeah, that's the War Shrine. So if you're going in with trolls, I'd probably advise taking it. Unbreakable makes a huge deal when you've got so much damage output left in you, but you're being terrified because you've got very low leadership. And then there's the fire damage, and we also have the +10 to leadership. So I don't know, but they're very expensive, though. I think I caught the price. It was like $2,400. They're pretty pricey. So say goodbye to like the rest of your army if you do decide to go with that. But finally, last but not least, we've got the Frostworm here, and we've seen the Frostworm. I think we've seen it in action with Creative Assembly's streams and stuff. But let's take a look at this beauty. Oh boy, it's a big beast. So it's basically the Chaos Dragon reskinned, yeah, fitting the Norsca theme, and it's a lot of eyes. But let's look at stats. So the Frostworm has wings that are just gonna keep. All right, there we go. So the Frostworm has an armor of 70, leadership of 66, actually 61, but flanks are secure, speed of 90, melee attack of 45, magical damage, and frostbite. Ridiculous. 34 melee defense, so actually pretty low, and 450 armor piercing of 290. I'm trying to remember the numbers. So that's a bit less than half, or sorry, a bit more than half of what the Mammoths have, and then the charge bonus of 57. Now, missile resistance of 25% is pretty helpful when you're a flying beast. That's a common target for missiles. And then we've got fire weakness of 40%, though, so that's huge. That's more than your average to regeneration, which I believe is 20. Let's just double check. So, yeah, to regeneration it's 20, but the Frostworm, I guess being so dependent on frost, is negative 40. Fear and terror, though, as well as the chilling aura. That's negative 36% to speed, and with every attack, that's another negative 52% to speed. Now, what I'm curious about, mathematically speaking, is that a total of negative 36 plus 52, 88? Is that negative 88% speed overall, or is it first negative 36% and then negative 52% off of negative 36%, if you get what I'm saying? But who are we up against? This is a Lord, speed of 35. Okay, that's not really going to be interesting to look at. But I imagine this will drop like Goblin Wolf Riders down to a speed of... I mean, I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but like, slow them right down, maybe like to a speed of 10, 20. 20 sounds too high for double, like the negatives being stacked up like that. So that would be pretty impressive. It'd be a great screening unit, but the melee defense isn't extremely high. It's not terrible. It's not extremely high, and it could get swarmed pretty easily. Armor is 70, which isn't terrible, actually. I don't know, I'm curious how this will stand up on the battlefield. Like, Blood Knights and Demigryph Knights with halberds will probably very easily take care of the Frostworm, and it might have a rough time in just long combat in general. You might have to sort of hit and run, you know, get in, get some damage in, pull out, and then with the Chilling Aura ability, it's actually a pretty large area that it'll cover with the Hex. So theoretically, against an army that doesn't have any ranged support, you could just have the Chilling Aura constantly flying over enemy cavalry or something, just slowing them down by 36%. That's a pretty big deal. Yeah, it makes a very big difference. And if you actually have it hovering over your, Marauders or your Marauder Horsemasters and stuff, then you can probably keep them safe. Negative 36% to speed is a massive drop, but we'll see how they fare. Again, I will do a unit testing video, but that is going to wait until later. I just realized I missed the Feral Manticore here. I missed the flying units because I'm down here and I just kind of zoom past them. Feral Manticore, though, is the same as the Chaos Feral Manticore. I'm going to go ahead and guess. Missile resistance of 25%, Fear and Terror, Weapon Strength 430, 145 Armor Piercing, and leadership is actually 56. Again, flank secure. So that is every unit I have covered. I believe quite a big roster, as you can see. But yeah, we will call it a video here. Let's go back to Wulfrik, our buddy Wulfrik here. But we're going to call it here, and the next video we'll send these guys into the battlefield again, one at a time, hoping to get sort of an understanding of how these guys work, what makes them tick, what they can beat, and what they can't beat. So that video will probably be linked on screen right now. Should be on screen, and if you look under the eye at the top right corner of the screen as well, it'll list all the videos in this series, links in the description below as well, of course. And if you aren't a subscriber, make sure you click that subscribe button for more Total War content, a constant flow of it, especially with all this news coming out these days. So as always, guys, thank you very much for watching. Just keeping these videos split so they're much easier to consume. I'll see you again for me in just a moment's time. But as always, until then, cheers.